Have you ever wanted to create an application where you can draw a fish, let's say with a pinkish fin and the pinkish, no, and do, let's say, more an orangey eye and let's say an orangey mouth, but in the mouth it would have smaller teeth that are red, bloody red. Where is the red? Here's the red. And something like this. And then maybe even with a nice yellow little fin down here. Well, if that is what you always wanted to do, then you've come to the right place, because in this video I'm going to show you exactly that. You already see the patch on the left side. This is what we are going to build, but now I'm going to start from scratch. Just close that, don't save, and start with a new document. So this is going to be a drawing app. For drawing we always need a renderer, and also we wanted to draw with a mouse, so we need a mouse node. Mouse node gets connected to the renderer. Now to collect the points that the mouse goes through as we draw some strokes, we're using the Q node. The Q node takes the position of the mouse and inserts positions and collects positions as long as the left mouse button is pressed. As you see, as I draw something here, the Q node already collects the points. Now to draw those points, we're using the polygon, because the polygon already takes a spread of points. And now we also want to connect polygon to the renderer. For this we use a group node. I simply double click the link to insert the group node. You see it's already there. Connect the polygon and I should already see something, but the polygon for now is filled, so I'm using a stroke node to stroke it. This is good, but you see as I'm starting a new stroke, it's always connected to the previous one. So really we always want to only draw one stroke. For that, let's say we will always clear as the mouse button is pressed down initially. So now I'm always only seeing one stroke. What I want to do next is I want to draw multiple strokes. So really I want to cue all the strokes that I'm making. For that I'm simply using a second cue node. Now the question is, when do I want to insert? Now the question is, when do I want to insert something in this cue? Really, when the stroke is finished. And the stroke is finished when the left mouse button is released. So that would go here. Let's see, I'm drawing some strokes, and the output of the cue already shows me here I now have a spread of vector, meaning like a spread of strokes. So in order to draw all those strokes, what we need to do is use a for each loop and say for each of the spreads in that cue we want to draw a polygon. We can go out of the loop again via the splicer, then double click to immediately create a group spectral which joins us the spread of layer into a single layer, and now that layer will also connect to the group here. Now you see this polygon is also filled by default, so we're stroking it, and already we have a multi-stroke drawing app. The next thing we want to do is we want to add color, and we want to change the width of the stroke, but not for all of the strokes at once, but always only for one stroke. So how would we do this? Now, the thing is that all that we are collecting here now is the spread of vectors. That's the positions along the stroke. And this is only one of the properties that we want to collect, because we also want to collect a color and a width for each stroke. And this is where data types come into play. So really we want to create our own data type called stroke, and that would have three properties: the points, a color, and the width. And we do this by creating a record. We call this record stroke. We can open it. Now we are in the stroke patch, and here we create the three properties. And to do this, we just call them by their names. So we will call this one, the first one is called points, and we create a pad for that. And we create another pad for the color, and finally a pad for the width. As a next step, we want to tell this data type what data type the individual properties have. So we go there, configure, and the points will be a spread of vector 2. The color will be of type RGBA, that's the name of the color type, and the width will be a simple float 32. Now that already defines the data type, but we can't do anything with it yet, because what we need is we need two nodes basically. One node that allows us to create or join a stroke from its individual components, and the opposite node to split those components. And as we don't want anything more from this very simple data type, we can do this with one shortcut by selecting all the pads and pressing Ctrl K. This creates inputs for all the properties and puts them on the create operation, and it creates outputs for all the properties and puts it on the split operation. So now, as we go out here, we can already look and find the stroke category, enter it, and we have the create and split operations. So first I'm gonna create a create stroke that takes the points, it takes a color, and it takes width. And then this is what we want to queue. Instead of only the points, we now want to queue the strokes. As I start a link, the queue doesn't let me connect this. It doesn't let me because the data type currently is just a spread of vectors. But I want to connect a stroke here. And as I know better that this connection actually will make sense, in the future I can force this connection by pressing space and then making the connection. Now, obviously, at this moment, the link is red because there is a data type mismatch. But really, I know already that what comes out here now is the stroke. So I can split that. Just again going while stroke, choose split, and have the color here also and the width. I'm gonna make a bit more space. Really, I can just move the stroke in here and connect the color and the stroke width. Also, I will need the stroke out here again. And let's see, as I choose a different color now, I already record the new strokes, but something is still odd. First, I will want to create a little subpatch for these 3 nodes, as I will need them exactly here and here. Not to duplicate this, I will cut these nodes out. I'm creating a new patch called draw stroke. I paste the nodes in here, create an input, create an output, go back here, move the draw stroke into the for each, connect it back, so that's now the same as before, and I can also use that here, the draw stroke, and remove those. And obviously not like this, but this takes the stroke now as input, right? So now you see that I'm always drawing and collecting the right stroke with the right color. One thing you notice as I draw a new stroke, it is behind everything. This is obviously just because of the drawing order here, so I will say that the new stroke is always, the current stroke is always on top. And then that would already do. Let me also quickly introduce a clear mechanism. So as I press the middle mouse button, I want both cues to be cleared. So now as I draw something, and I'm choosing another color here, draw something on top, draw another thing on top. Now you notice the line just moved behind all the others, and this is because the drawing order of the elements inserted in the queue. So the queue always inserts the new element at the beginning, and basically to fix this problem I need to reverse the order before I'm drawing it. Now the new strokes are always on top. Another thing is that you notice I'm still modifying always the last stroke I drew, which is probably also not what I want. And this is because I still keep drawing the last stroke on top of the recorded stroke. And this is really not necessary. So what I will do is I go here, create an enabled pin, and say I only want to draw this while or as long as the left mouse button is pressed. So now you see as I change a parameter here, it's really only for the new stroke. Another feature I promised was the zooming and panning in the canvas, and this is really easy. Double click the layer link down here and insert a camera. That was already it. So now I can draw something smaller. Oh, that was a clear. But you see I can zoom and pan the canvas and still keep drawing, and everything just works. As a last feature, I want to add the undo. How will that work? Well, there is actually a node called undo that will help us here, but this cannot be used together with the queue. So instead of the queue, we have to create our own little storing mechanism. We simply want to add strokes to a spread. So the collection of strokes in this drawing app can be thought of as another property of the app. So, and remember, when we want to think of something as a property of a patch, we create a path for that. So I'm creating a path that's called strokes. This will be where our strokes are stored, and I'm using the add spread to add strokes, and then as I've added the stroke, I'm going to write that back to the strokes pad. Now you see the strokes are actually counting up all the time because the add spread is executed all the time. So I want to configure that to show its apply pin and only insert as the mouse is released. So it's stopped now, but also we now need a mechanism to clear the whole spread. We're using the clear spread node for that, and again configure it to show its apply pin so that when we press the middle mouse button we can clear the whole thing. And now finally we can remove the queue and just connect the strokes here. We'll see the application is still working so far. And now let's see how we can use the undo here. We simply insert it into this link like this. Now we have to specify the levels, the number of undos we allow, say 100. And then we have to specify when we push a new state to the undo stack, and this is whenever a stroke was drawn, so whenever the mouse is released. And then we have two pins here for undo and redo, which we configure as bangs. And let's see, I'm drawing some more strokes, and I press undo and I press redo, and this already works. Finally, let's create some keyboard interaction for the undo and redo. We're using a keyboard node for that, which needs to connect also to the group here. So I'm adding another pin, and I will resort them because I will want the keyboard. This is not necessary, but I will want it to be connected to the first pin. And then I'm using the key match and say when the control key is pressed and at the same time the set key is pressed, then I want to use that as a trigger for the undo, and as the control key and the Y key is pressed, I want to use that as a trigger for the redo. Control and Y is a redo. Let's see, I'm starting from scratch, drawing something and pressing undo and redo. Good. We also have to clear the undo. As we saw, it now still has previous drawings inside, so we also need to clear it as we clear the whole drawing. Oh, that was that one, middle mouse button. So now everything starts from scratch. But I guess that is already it. You can draw with different colors and stroke widths and undo that and redo that. oops, and zoom it. Ah, there is another error. Now the drawing order is reversed again because we replaced the queue with our own storing mechanism, and here we are always adding the item at the end of the spread, so we can simply get rid of that reverse here, and you see now things are where they should be. One more thing, we could now put this kind of the undo controller into its own subpatch, so cut that out, create a new patch, call that undo control, paste in the nodes. The keyboard needs an output connected to the renderer, and we have one output for undo and one for redo. We go back and connect that. That makes a bit of a cleaner patch, but still works the same. And as a little homework assignment, I can only recommend to just build the whole thing again from scratch.